Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hidden Rocks, the show where we talk about cards that are like hidden gems, but sometimes they're actually just really janky. Today's episode is centered around one of the jankiest commanders, Ruxa, Patient Professor. Ruxa is entirely centered around creatures with no abilities or vanilla creatures. He lets you regrowth a vanilla creature whenever he ETBs or attacks, he buffs all of your vanilla creatures by +1/+1, and he gives all of your vanilla creatures super trample. When you attack someone, you can just deal all the damage straight to your opponent instead of wasting damage on blockers. I've been looking into making a Ruxa deck, and I found 3 cards that would be a perfect fit that I think went unnoticed by most Ruxa players. And the combined cost of the 3 cards in this video is under $2, which is great since Ruxa seems like a good option for a budget deck. So get ready to take your Ruxa deck up a level and terrorize your playgroups with this bear menace.
Stop it, Bear! Stop it! Bear! 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 You're breaking it!
Our first card today is a really unique creature. You might be thinking that a Ruxa deck should only run creatures without any abilities because they're the only ones that can get buffed by your commander. But there is actually one super unique green creature that has abilities and can still get buffed by Ruxa. That creature is Nullhide Ferox. This card is very weird. It's a 4-mana 6/6 with hexproof that also says you can't cast non-creature spells. But more importantly, it says any player can pay 2 mana to make it lose all of its abilities for a turn. Also, if someone makes you discard it, then you can put it onto the battlefield, which I guess might be useful. But anyways, this card is fantastic in a Ruxa deck. Your deck will probably have a lot of creatures in it to begin with, so if you wait until the right time to play it, then you probably won't have to worry about the downside that much. And if there's a non-creature spell that you really need to play, then you can always pay 2 mana to get it down. But more importantly, you're getting a 4-mana 6/6 with hexproof. That's really good. Now I know that paying 2 mana every turn to make it into a vanilla creature sounds like a lot, but the thing is you never have to do that. A 6/6 will probably be big enough that you can just swing this at somebody. You don't want to think of this card as a 4-mana vanilla 6/6 that you have to sink 2 mana into every turn. You want to think of this card like a 4-mana 6/6 that gives you the option of paying 2 mana to make it into a 7/7 that can ignore blockers, which is really good. In fact, if you play your political cards right, you might never have to pay the 2 mana. Just look at the table and say, hey, if anyone pays 2 mana to make this creature lose its abilities, then I'll let them pick who I attack. Depending on your playgroup, you might find opponents who are willing to pay 2 mana every turn to deal 7 damage to somebody else. Nullhide Ferox is definitely a bit of a tricky card to play with, but its stats more than make up for it, and your opponents will not be expecting to get hit in the face with this much raw damage.
Oh, wow! Wow!
Next up is a card that I've had on my radar for years, and I finally found a good home for it. This card falls into one of my favorite categories, which is hate cards that actually synergize with a deck. The card I'm talking about is Titania's Song. This 4-mana enchantment turns every non-creature artifact into a vanilla artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its CMC. So, for example, an Arcane Signet would just turn into a 2/2. Also, for some reason, even if somebody destroys your Titania's Song, the effect will still last until the end of that turn, which is pretty nice and avoids getting blown out. Now on the surface level, this card is a fantastic hate card. It can absolutely hose artifact decks, it can negate your opponent's ramp, and it also turns clues, food, and treasures into 0/0s so they'll immediately die. But the best part is, your artifacts will become vanilla creatures, so they'll get buffed by Ruxa and you can use them to beat face. Your Ruxa deck will probably have some artifacts like Heraldic Banner, Lifecrafter's Bestiary, or Azeka's Chariot, so why not turn them into creatures to help you push through that last bit of damage you need to win? And as if this card needed any more help, if you happen to have a great henge, you can use it to smack someone for 10 damage. I understand if you aren't a huge fan of hate cards, but this one synergizes so well in a Ruxa deck that it might be time for you to embrace the hate just this once.
Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
Our last card today is kind of a special case since it doesn't have any direct synergy with Ruxa, but I still think it should go in almost every Ruxa deck. It's another card that I've always wanted to play because it's super unique, but I haven't found a good home for it until now, and that card is Primal Order. Primal Order is a super old 4-mana enchantment that deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands they control at the beginning of their upkeep. Yeah, that's right, in the old days, green had direct damage burn for some reason. Now, you might be wondering why this card is so good in Ruxa. Well, first of all, Ruxa wants you to pressure people's life totals, so dealing direct damage to other players is obviously helpful, and this card can deal a lot of damage. But Ruxa is also the perfect commander to play if you want an all-basic forest mana base, which would mean you don't take any damage from the Primal Order. First off, since Ruxa wants you to only play super basic creatures with no abilities, playing all basic lands just kind of feels on theme. But more importantly, there are a surprising number of payoffs for playing only forests. You have token makers like Beacon of Creation, Howl of the Night Pack, and Waiting in the Weeds, my new favorite card that I never knew existed. You have creature buffs like Blanchwood Armor and Primal Bellow. You have ramp like Gaia's Touch, Nissa Who Shakes the World, and Vernal Bloom, and even weird random cards like Lost in the Woods and Reverent Silence. All of these cards get way better if you only have forests in your deck. Now, I'm not saying you need to put every single one of those cards into your deck, but some of them are definitely good enough to make the cut. Like Beacon of Creation, Primal Bellow, and Nissa Who Shakes the World are definitely worth a spot in an all-forest Ruxa deck. And if you're playing all forests in your Ruxa deck anyway, then Primal Order seems like an auto-include to help bring your opponent's life totals down even quicker. I know that the main goal of a Ruxa deck is to just beat face with vanilla creatures, but it's always good to have a backup plan. Now yes, those fancy, non-basic lands might seem tempting, but if you're playing Ruxa, then I think it's a great opportunity to embrace your inner basicness.
I am not basic. You're basic.
No, Mom. You're basic. And that's okay.
If there are any other cards that you think are hidden gems for Ruxa, or just hidden gems in general, then leave them down in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Tofu out.